Hi, it is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to go ahead and get started with this back to school lunchbox workshop. I'm so excited to be hosting this. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jen Joldwin. I'm an advanced holistic nutritionist. I specialize specifically in helping women regain control of their hormones and of their lives and the symptoms that come from hormone imbalances, and oftentimes undiscovered hormone imbalances that are particularly enhancing different types of hormones they may or symptoms they may be experiencing from a hormone imbalance. But I understand as a mother as well that if it's not easy and it's not simple and it's not a long-term solution, it's not families in helping them make healthy living easier and simpler and just more delicious and easy to do at home with the family. So that is where this is coming from today. So I recognize we have a lot of people right now, a lot of parents and families who are debating whether they're sending their kids back to school, whether they are keeping them home, whether they are doing some sort of combination of the two. And then there are families who don't have an option and have to do whatever choice it is that they're doing. So what I've done with this workshop is I've actually created it so that regardless of whether you're sending your children to school or you're keeping them home, it's important to make sure that they are having a healthy, nutritious lunch that you can prep ahead of time so that it's easy and convenient to have on the go. So this workshop is going to be loaded with information here for you. But basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting together 5 morning snacks, 5 lunches, and 5 afternoon snacks for your children. If you did not yet grab the resources for this workshop, I have added them in the chat box and in the description of this video. So you'll be able to just click on that link and you'll be able to download all of your resources. So in that link, you're going to find the meal plan, the recipes, the meal prep guide, and a shopping list. And then in addition to that, because you are here live with me today, I am also giving you a 5-day, 5-meal back to work lunchbox for you as a parent so that you can have easy, convenient, delicious, nutritious meals for you when you return to work in September. So without further ado, I would really like to get this started. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them in the comments or in the chat box. I'd be happy to pop in and out as we go through this workshop to help you or to answer them and to give you any direction, so that you also know, in case I move too quickly through this workshop, I am recording this so that you will have access to the recorded replay, so that if you do need or you want to, if you're not catching this live, you have the opportunity to redo this again in the kitchen. Going well, perfect. Okay, so going to just make my screen full screen so that I can see for sure. There we go. Oops, no, there we go. Okay, so I can see for sure that you can see what I'm seeing with my my kitchen here. So you got a pretty good view there. That's it anyways. So what I want to do here is I do want to start with, first of all, I hope you grocery shop. So if you had registered for this event in advance, then you already have the shopping list. I hope you've been able to do the groceries. And if not, then you'll be doing this on your own time at a replay. But if you've got your groceries at home, get them all out that we're going to need for this event. So you can just follow the shopping list in the resource link. And if you haven't yet, I encourage you to wash your fruits and vegetables. So the easiest way to do that and the quickest way to do that is put them all in the sink full of cold water and put about a half a cup of baking soda in there for them to soak. You're going to want to make sure that you swish them around well and be sure that all of your produce is fully submerged in the water. And you're going to let them soak for about 15 minutes. Okay? After that, you can just pull the plug in the drain. allow the water to drain out. Give a quick water rinse to your fruits and vegetables and just allow them to air dry in the sink before putting them away. But in this case, we're actually just going to move them directly to the counter after they have drained, because we are going to just go ahead and start prepping them. So if you've done that, fantastic. If not, go ahead and start washing them right now. If you don't want to wait the 15 minutes for them to soak, you could just put them in there with the water and the baking soda, and then just give them all a really good scrub, okay? And then drain the water and rinse your veggies. Next, what we're gonna do is we're actually going to, so you'll notice, if you haven't noticed already, the recipes in this event are entirely plant-based, okay? And they are also nut-free, so they are school safe and kid-friendly. So the recipes will also have notes, so that if you wanted to convert some of these recipes to not plant-based and maybe you wanted some meat options in there or some dairy options, I believe the recipes have a couple of notes on how to do that. If not, while we're assembling them, I can also discuss that as well. So if you have questions about how to put alternatives into your meal and how to swap out some of those ingredients, feel free to leave them in the chat, or you can reach out to me after the event and I'd be happy to give you some suggestions on that, okay? So what we're gonna do now, if you are using dry beans for this event, then you're gonna wanna go ahead and cook them right now. This way they will be done and ready by the time we're ready to use them. So my favorite way of making beans, like a batch prep of beans all at once, is using mason jars and my pressure cooker. So what I do is I put about half a cup of dry beans into my mason jar. Then I fill it with water, no lid, and I put it into my pressure cooker. Okay, just put it into my pressure cooker, and I use a trivet, so you can see here it's just in the bottom of my pressure cooker. I put about 2 cups of water in the bottom of my pressure cooker. All of my jars of dry beans with water go into the pressure cooker with, like, on the trivet, okay? Then they go into the Instant Pot on high pressure for about 16 minutes. And then at the end of the 16 minutes, you can either do a quick release or you can do a natural release on the pressure. That's totally your choice. If you are short for time, you can do a quick release. If you like your beans a little mushier, like in this case, we're using a lot of the beans just to make sauces and dips. So you could overcook them, which is totally fine. So you could leave them in the pressure cooker a little longer on the natural release to just allow that, allow them to cook. So if you are using dry beans, go ahead and cook them right now in your pressure cooker if you have one. If you do not, you can cook them on the stove. So I suggest starting that now, because they do take about 45 to 55 minutes on the stove. If you are using ones from a can, go ahead, open up your cans. Drain out how much, so measure out how much beans you'll need for each recipe and just rinse them off, okay? So I'm actually gonna do that right now with my beans. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse them off in the sink. So I know that I need white beans, I know that I need chickpeas, and I know that I need black beans, okay? So you can go ahead and do that. And I'm actually gonna pop out of the camera really quick while I do that, because my sink is on the other side. So there are my white beans, they're rinsed. My chickpeas are rinsed and done, and I'm just gonna do my black beans. Rinse our beans, actually, is that Beans contain a phytic acid, which causes a lot of indigestion and some upset stomach. It's also what causes gas when they are cooked. And that phytic acid is actually leached into the water that they're cooked in. So when you cook beans or when you buy them cooked in the store, you're going to want to make sure that you drain them and rinse them really well to wash away that phytic acid so that you're not experiencing any, belly digestion and discomfort from eating them. Another reason too is that those phytic acids can actually interfere with your body's ability to absorb certain nutrients. And so we just want to make sure that we are rinsing that away and disabling, deactivating those phytic acids that would interfere with your nutrient absorption, okay? So here's what we're going to do next. If you've already rinsed off all your beans or you've got them in your pressure cooker ready to go, then we're going to go ahead and cook our rice and our red lentils. So for these recipes, we need, so these recipes are put together for one child, okay? So if you are doing more children, then you're going to want to multiply the recipes and the number of ingredients by the number of children you're making for, but in this case, I'm making just for one. So we're going to make a little bit of red lentils. So in this case, we need 2 tablespoons of dry red lentils and just 1/3 of a cup of water. We're going to put that on the stove, okay? Now, the reason I'm not doing the red lentils in my pressure cooker is, first of all, it's a very small amount that I'm making, so it just doesn't make sense to do it in the pressure cooker, but also because they do cook very quickly, and so I just don't want to they'll just, I mean, in this case, it's not a super big deal because they are being blended into a sauce. But in the case of where if you wanted to actually have them maintain some structure, it's easier to ensure that you're not overcooking them when you do them on the stove. So there, and then I'm just going to put 1/3 of a cup of water and then pop that on the stove. Okay. At about a medium heat, okay? And then the same thing for your rice. You're gonna do 1/3 of a cup of uncooked brown rice. Now, if you don't have brown rice, you could also use, let's see, you could use buckwheat, you could use spelt or farro, you could use quinoa, you can use couscous. Those are all really great whole grains that will provide your children with a lot of energy throughout the day, okay? I would usually recommend staying away from white rice. Those contain a higher glycemic level, which are more likely to influence your children's blood sugar levels, and then they're more likely to have energy crashes and less stable emotions and moods, okay? So stick with the whole grains that are gonna really sustain them, have them feeling fuller longer, and not have them going through that emotional roller coaster when their blood sugar levels start to change. Now, in my case, I actually already have a little bit of, what is this one? This one's spelt cooked up. And again, I had done this in my pressure cooker with a batch of other grains in the same similar format that I had done all of my beans. So in this case, I'm actually just going to leave them the way they are, and I will rinse and measure them when I need them. But in your case, if you are making this fresh, then you're gonna need about 1/3 of a cup of uncooked rice or grains and about 2/3 a cup of water. And you're just gonna put those on the oven or on the stove, sorry. Next is we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees, okay? This is all just the prep work before we even actually get started. And once you begin to get in the routine of doing batch prepping, this becomes more natural and automatic for you, okay? Basically, you wanna make sure that your grains and your proteins are all being done first. And while those are cooking, you wanna focus on your fruits and your vegetables and your sauces, okay? That's basically the quick breakdown of how to do it in a quick way. So preheat your oven to 350 degrees and then come on back over because we're going to make the sauce for some tofu or if you are using chicken or chickpeas, that as well, and toss them into the sauce and chop up our broccoli, okay? So let's all preheat our ovens to 350 degrees and then we will get started, okay? Grab yourself a couple of mixing bowls. We're gonna need Okay, how is everybody doing so far? I know I move very quickly on some things, so I just want to make sure that everybody's staying caught up and doing well. Let's just jump over here and see how it's going. All right, there's no questions so far. That's great. Fantastic. Okay, actually, we do have a question. I'm scared to use a pressure cooker. I've heard so many stories. Okay, so I've been using my pressure cooker now for almost 4 years. This is for Amanda, and I have not had any concerns with my pressure cooker. I've never experienced any issues with it. It's always been very, very reliable for me. I personally have the Instant Pot, which I find to be a very reliable brand, and it's very nice because it's foolproof. So it has a lot. Mine has a lot of options, probably more than I need, more than I actually use. But it just makes it foolproof because it just gives you that up. It's basically set and forget. Press your button and leave it, and it's done. So I really like it for that reason. But Amanda, if you had more questions about a pressure cooker, I'd be happy to give you more insight and just more suggestions on how to use it after the event. Okay, so just reach out to me afterwards and let me know if you have any other questions about that. Let's see here, and I can hear my water boiling for my my red lentils. So I'm just going to double check on them and stir them a little bit while we all catch up. I'm just going to turn my heat down a little bit. So I have an induction stove top, which I find heats up incredibly quickly, and I oftentimes use a higher heat than necessary. So I'm actually going to add a little bit more water because I apparently just boiled it all the way while I was talking to everybody. So if you're using an induction cooktop like I am actually on a level 2 heat setting right now. I had been on a 4, and that was too much. So just to give you some perspective on how I'm using my stove right now, and I'm just going to give it another stir to make sure that nothing's sticking to the bottom of the pot. Perfect. Okay, so those probably only need, in my case, probably another 5 minutes or so. As long as they're not sticking to the bottom of your pot, you'll be okay to overcook them because they are being blended up anyways. So if they're really mushy, it's not a big deal. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and get started. Amanda, you're very welcome, Amanda. Great. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna make a sauce for our tofu, which we're going to prep in just a moment. But first of all, we're gonna need 1 tablespoon of tamari or soy sauce or even amino acids. So whatever it is you have on hand at home, you're gonna need 1 tablespoon of that into a small bowl, just a small mixing bowl. So I'm using soy sauce. Mine is gluten-free. We have a lot of gluten-free products in our house here, but totally your preference. Then we're going to do, if you do have miso paste, now is the time to add it. It's 2 teaspoons. If you don't have any on hand, that's okay. That's an optional ingredient for this, okay? So you can pass on that. I personally don't have any on hand right now, and my local tiny little grocery store doesn't sell it. So it's kind of a specialty item that I have to go elsewhere for. So again, to keep this simple and easy for all parents, this is an optional ingredient that you don't have to add. But here we are going to add 1 teaspoon of oil. So whatever oil it is that you have on hand, this is optional as well if you're following a no oil diet. Really, it's just going to help the soy sauce and the flavorings stick to the tofu, but it's not a mandatory component of this. Okay, so I'm just using a little bit of coconut oil. That's what I have on hand. I've got this massive container of it from Costco. We here don't use a whole lot of processed or refined oils in my house, so this is kind of a rarity for us, but I figured I would really like to show you as close as possible to how the recipes are being created. So we're just gonna stir that up. Now, if your children are adventurous with spices, you could definitely right now add a little bit of ginger powder or fresh ginger. You could add a little bit of garlic, but that's total preference based on how your children like to eat their food. If they like their food less spiced and with less taste, then by all means, just leave your sauce like this. If your children do like a little bit more adventure in their spices, then by all means, you can add those right now. I am actually gonna add a little bit of ginger and a little bit of garlic because we do like that. So just a little bit there. So with a lot of times with spices, I just eyeball it. I just go based on flavor and how I know we enjoy our food. I don't usually measure for spices, but if you need to, I basically just put in about a quarter, probably not even, probably an eighth of a teaspoon of both spices. So that gives you just a little bit of perspective onto what I'm doing here. All right, so we're just gonna put that aside. And in the meantime, we are going to chop up our tofu and we're gonna chop up our broccoli, okay? So go ahead and grab yourself a cutting board. Now, if you're not using tofu and you're using chicken instead, please make sure that you have 2 cutting boards on hand and 2 separate knives, or that you're willing to wash your knife in between what we're doing here. So go ahead and start with your tofu. So I'm using my cutting board. I have a large block of extra firm tofu in here, and it's what I'm going to do. So tofu is generally placed inside of a liquid to keep it fresh. I'm just going to drain all of that out of the package. There we go. I'm just going to pop around and see if we have any questions. I'm also kind of just lightly squeezing my tofu in the package. Okay, no other questions. That's great. Just to ensure I'm squeezing as much liquid out of it, similar to a sponge. If you have a tofu press, you're more than welcome to press your tofu. I personally don't. If you want it really, really dry and to extract all of that liquid, you can just put it between 2 plates. I will show you so that you understand, okay? So 1 plate, just put some paper towel down. In my case here, we try to live a very low waste lifestyle, so I don't actually use paper towels. I just use reusable cloths. So this one's nice and clean. So put it on my plate, put my tofu on that. I'm gonna wrap it. Okay, and then I'm just gonna put another plate on top and add a little bit of weight. So if you were doing this ahead of time, you could definitely, do this like 15 minutes before your meal. Put a heavy weight on top. Like, this milk is actually not very heavy. Here it is here. I've got a 5-pound weight. Because if it's not fun, why are we doing it? Okay, so you could leave it for about 10 or 15 minutes to just press and drain like this if you wanted it very, very well extracted. Otherwise, you can just do what I did in the sink and just squeeze it in its package to extract the liquid. Totally your preference, okay? But I'm just showing you here how other options if you don't actually have a tofu press and you still wanted it very, very dry. So totally your preference. I'm going to take that off. I'm not really a big, doesn't matter to me really if I'm using super dry tofu or not. So, all right, now, so I'm making for a 4-year-old, okay? And I'm only gonna be making, I only need tofu for 1 meal for a 4-year-old. So really she only needs about a quarter of this brick. So if I cut it in half, and I cut that in half again, that right there is about 1 serving for my daughter, okay? And that might even be a lot on some days for her. Some days she probably wouldn't eat that much, but I know that she doesn't like huge bites of food all at once. So I'm actually going to cut this into smaller cubes than maybe what you would be cutting into for, like a 9 or 10-year-old or like a before 13, basically. But what I do like to do is I like to keep it finger size too, because she does like to eat these with her fingers. And I know that, you know, right now there's some controversy as to whether we should be allowing our children to eat with their fingers and encouraging them to eat with forks and knives. But truthfully, if you're comfortable with your children eating with their hands, or particularly if you are teaching them hygiene practices that are allowing them to do so, I encourage making their foods finger size, so that they can eat with their hands and they're more likely to do so. It's just a lot more fun for children to be able to pick up their food like that and eat it, especially if you're working with, or like you're feeding younger children. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pop those up so you can see right there. Now, if your child is over the age of 4, and they are, I'd say under 6, this is probably still a good serving size. If they're over 6, I would look at maybe a third of the package instead of a half. And if they're between 10 and 13, I would maybe even look at doing slightly more than a third, maybe just less than half, okay? Depends really on how big their appetite is. If you know they have a really big appetite, then you're going to want to go on the bigger side. And if you know that they don't really, then keep it to the smaller side of the portion serving, okay? But basically for an adult, half a cup of tofu is 1 serving for an adult. So that kind of gives you some perspective for children. And teenagers generally in the protein range start to get into adult size servings. So in the teenage range, we would want them in the half cup serving size. Below that, anywhere between a quarter and a half a cup is appropriate for them, okay? So we've got that. You can go ahead and just drop that into your sauce if your container or your bowl was big enough, okay? And then just give it, just stir it around a little bit so that they're fully coated. And in the meantime, while those kind of marinate, we are going to go ahead and chop up our broccoli. So this meal here, we're basically doing this meal is going to be a roasted broccoli, tofu, and brown rice dish. Really easy, really simple. And so a lot of families say to me, but my kids don't like broccoli. How am I supposed to get them? Try giving it a different name. Okay, kids love when they actually get to name their food, and when it's called something that's really fun, right? So I know a lot of families get success when they call broccoli, instead of saying, okay, you're having broccoli for lunch, and then you hear your kids going, I don't like it. No, let's avoid that, right? No, you're having little trees for lunch today, woohoo, and little chicken bites or tofu bites, whatever it is that your children are eating that they enjoy in terms of wording, right? Sometimes I call these chicken nuggets with my daughter. She's familiar with eating chicken nuggets when she's visiting family. So to give her that little bit of fun encouragement, I sometimes refer to them as chicken nuggets. So just calling foods a little bit differently to spice it up can help encourage your children to give it a try. But look at how cute these are, okay? Look at that baby tree. Like really, like if you start talking to your children like that, they might be more inclined to give it a try, okay? So we're just gonna go ahead and chop up the broccoli. Now I'm actually going to make more broccoli than is necessary because I think I'm gonna have some of this for supper. So while I'm at this, might as well just 2 birds, 1 stone. So just go ahead and chop your broccoli. Now if your children are very young, you're gonna wanna make smaller bite-sized pieces. Like that little tree I'd shown you, that baby tree, there it is, like that baby tree. If your children are older and they don't mind large pieces, you can do larger as well. My daughter, like I mentioned, does not like small or large pieces of food, so I'm just gonna go ahead and chop those smaller. If you are done chopping your broccoli, you can grab yourself an oven-safe baking dish, okay? We're gonna actually put all of this in one dish. Now, your tofu is, your red lentils are probably done. So just have a look at those on their stove. So mine are done. I would think yours are as well. And you'll know that they're done because they're very mushy and no longer like a round. They kind of look cracked. They look like they're cracked open. There's that. Now grab yourself a baking dish. Now with your broccoli, if you are using oil, you can toss it in a little bit of oil, salt, and pepper. But then go ahead and put it into your baking dish. So when you're meal prepping, you really want to focus on doing the things that don't require babysitting first, such as putting stuff in the oven, putting stuff in your Instant Pot, just doing the things, prepping those things first, so that while those things are actually cooking and being prepared, you can focus on other foods, such as preparing your sauces and chopping up all your fruits and vegetables. Okay, so there's that. Just go ahead and sprinkle some salt and pepper on that. And we're going to go ahead and put that in the oven at 350 degrees, which your oven should be by now. Actually, preheated. Go ahead and put that in and set yourself a timer for 18 minutes. Okay, I have a built-in oven up there, so mine does not require any preheating. It actually does the whole process on its own. All right, now I'm just gonna take a look here, see if we have any questions while we kind of all catch up and how everything's going. Fantastic, no questions so far? Perfect. All righty, so. Perfect, okay, so then what we're gonna do next is we're going to, let me grab my prep guide here for you. We've got all that in the oven. We are going to make some muffins, okay? So, and actually the really great thing is that these muffins cook at the same temperature as our tofu and broccoli. So we're gonna be able to put all of it in the oven together at the same time. The muffins are gonna take a little bit longer, or sorry, the tofu and broccoli take a little bit longer, which is why we started it first, okay? So now in the meantime, just clear off your space and get yourself out a blender or a food processor. All right, now we're gonna make green smoothie muffins. So these are really, really great because they're gonna be loaded with baby spinach or any dark leafy green that you have on hand. It's a really great way to get your children to eat their greens. Most kids do not actually like eating salads, or a lot of children have issues with the texture or even just swallowing them. So putting them into a smoothie or a muffin is a really great way for your kids to get the benefits of eating dark leafy greens without all the power struggles and the issues behind doing so. So we're going to need for this, we've got 1 1/4 cup of baby spinach or any dark leafy green. In my case, I actually didn't have any spinach, but I did have a ton of Swiss chard growing out on my tower garden, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. I already cut it and brought it in. So there's my fresh Swiss chard. Then we need 1 ripe banana. So go ahead and put 1 ripe banana into your food processor or your blender. I'm a huge fan of blender recipes. They seriously make life really simple. So you need that. Get yourself a small glass. If you're using eggs, you can add 1 egg to this recipe. Otherwise, if you are vegan or egg-free, go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to a glass and put 3 tablespoons of water in that. And just like that. We're making a chia egg. So here's that. Okay, so we've got a banana in there. You can go ahead and put your dark leafy greens as well. So your spinach, if that's what you're using. I'm gonna break those up a little bit so I'm not fighting with my little food processor here. I actually have a very large Cuisinart food processor, but I have found that it's just too much for me. And like I mentioned, I'm really trying to live that low waste lifestyle and kind of live more minimally. So I realized I didn't actually need a huge food processor. Just went out and bought this little guy, which has been fantastic for me and my family, which is just me, my husband, and my powder. So I do have a smaller family in comparison to some of the families that I know are popping on here today. So in your case, it may be necessary to have a much larger one, but in my case, this little guy works wonders, okay? Now, we are also going to add a 1/4 cup of vanilla protein powder. So if you do not have any protein powder, you could definitely use either 1/2 cup of oats in replace of that, plus other banana, or you could even use a 1/4 cup of hemp hearts, which is going to really add to that protein level in there. Okay, so I actually do have protein powder. This one is my favorite. Okay, so it is plant-based, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, nut-free, and also contains a special blend of prebiotics. There we go. Sorry, that is really going to help support good digestive health. Okay, which is really important even for our children. So I'm going to go ahead and add a 1/4 cup of that. This one is a vanilla flavor. It's one of my favorites. There's that. And we need 1 tablespoon of dates. You can omit that if you like. That's your preference. If your dates are very dry, I would suggest just boiling a bit of water and letting them soak in the boiled water for a little bit, just to soften them up a little bit, but your preference if you're using them. Then we've got 1 cup of oats. So if you're not using the protein powder, but you're using oats, remember that you are adding an extra 1/2 cup of oats. So if you're not using protein powder, you're adding 1 1/2 cup of oats. If you have used protein powder, you're only adding 1 cup of oats. Put that in there. And we need 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm just gonna push all this around so that it will blend well before I get everything in. There we go. 1 1/2 teaspoons. So I'm just using a 1/2 teaspoon here. 3 of them. Okay, and then we just need 1/3 of a cup of milk. So in my case, I'm using soy milk. You can use almond milk. You can use hemp heart milk. You can use rice milk. You can use dairy milk. Whatever it is, sort of rice that you have on hand. Remember too, though, if you are sending these to school, and school is incredibly strict about nut-free, you may want to avoid the nut options and maybe stick to a soy or rice. Go. Okay, and then you can go ahead and start blending that. And then we are just going to put it all into our muffins and put it into the oven with our tofu while it cooks. And then we're going to get into some of the other stuff. So, love this little guy. So handy. All right, so I am actually just going to mute myself so that we don't have a ton of background noise while I do this. And in the meantime, if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the chat box and I will just take a look while I'm blending, okay? Okay, so that is nearly all blended. I am gonna go ahead and add my chia egg. I'm just gonna give it a good little stir before I do. So not all of my chia seeds have fully expanded yet, but that's okay because they will continue to expand once in with the recipe and once they're blended, so that's okay. Worst case, if you find that your muffins are not quite folding together well, then you can just let the mixture sit a little longer before adding it. But you can see here, so you can see, they're really starting to gel and solidify, which is fantastic because now that's basically like an egg, right? It's like an egg white. So this here is your binder. This is what's holding your muffins together when they cook the same way an egg would. And for those of you who don't know, chia seeds are a nutritional powerhouse. They are loaded with calcium and protein and essential fatty acids like omega-3s. Really, really great source of nutrients that are easy to add to pretty much any recipe. I'm just going to go ahead and keep blending. I'm going to remute myself again. There we go. Okay, so I've got a nice green batter, and what we're going to do is we're just going to put it into our muffin tins. So if you are using a non-stick muffin pan, go ahead and put it in. If you're not, you can either put silicone liners, you can use a little bit of oil to ensure they pop out easily. So I'm using these little guys, and because my daughter is only 4 and she doesn't have a huge appetite, I am only going to make them in the smaller ones. I prefer to save these for things like cupcakes and that thing, kind of a bigger option, or adult muffins. But in this case, I'm just going to use my mini one, but totally your preference, again, depending on the age of your children. Now this is non-stick, so I'm not going to worry about boiling it or anything. And you're just going to fill each cup about 2/3 of the way. Your recipe will expand a little bit when it cooks. And then you can pop these into the oven with your tofu and broccoli. Okay. So I have a lot left over because I am using mini cans, but so I'll just put that down, and I'm going to go ahead and pop it in the oven. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Now we can move on to the easier stuff, actually. But put yourself a timer. I think we had it on for 18 minutes, and that was how long ago? Okay, so that was 13 minutes ago. So she was so we'll put another timer for okay, restart your timer. Sorry, I have to think here. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's do 15 minutes, and then we will check on everything. and readjust, okay? So 15-minute timer, if you've got one, go ahead. Now we are going to prep all of our fruits and our vegetables, okay? Clear off your workspace. If you were using any chicken or meat for your first meal, go ahead and make sure you have a second clean cutting board for your vegetables and a clean knife. If you are using tofu, it doesn't matter. Now, I want you to grab all of your fruits and vegetables. So I actually have all of mine right here in a container. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut them up basically into fun shapes, okay? So maybe your children really like to just have, you know, veggie sticks so that they're dipping those, or maybe your children are a little younger and they need a little bit more encouragement of what they're eating. So I'm going to grab a handful of cookie cutters. Okay. I went to the dollar store and I picked up these cookie cutters. I don't normally make cookies actually, so I never owned cookie cutters until now. So grab yourself some cookie cutters, some fun shapes. I actually let my daughter pick these out so that she would enjoy and have interest and participate in cutting up her food and actually eating it. So grab yourself a handful of those, and I'm actually going to start with all of my vegetables. So I've got yellow pepper, red pepper, green pepper, I've got some cucumber, I have a small zucchini, some celery, okay? So we're gonna start with all of that. And I just want, so I've already washed everything. All this stuff's already been washed. Basically, we're gonna just start chopping. So my daughter likes her peppers in strips. Sometimes she actually likes them whole, like an apple. Like she'll actually eat it like an apple. One of her things, I guess. But I like them in strips for her. They're fun and easy to dip like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut them into strips. Very simple, okay? And just put them aside. Same thing with the rest. Peppers are a little bit harder to get a fun shape out of. Not impossible though, so you're more than welcome to do that if you'd like with your cookie cutters. So I don't really like long strips of peppers for her. Like I said, she doesn't like large pieces of food. And it's just more manageable to put it in the lunch containers when they are smaller. I'll just cut them into half lengths. Okay, I'm just going to move them to the side of my cutting board. And I'm going to do the same thing with my green pepper. So I'm going to show you a little trick how I cut my peppers. It's one of my favorite ways to cut, but basically, I don't have a full one to show you with, but basically I start in the top, just like that. You can see that, yeah. And I just work my way around the stem, and it allows me to just pull the seeds and everything right out without actually having to work inside of the pepper. Then I just cut out some of those veins inside if they didn't come out with the stem on top. Okay? Any loose seeds you can just tap out. For those of you who can't see, I have a container full on my counter for my scraps. So I always keep a container handy to do that. Then peppers. Slide to the side. Even the bottom, I don't waste any of it. Just like that. Now, cucumber, I'm gonna do some cucumber. So these ones are fun to make into shapes. My daughter really likes that. So what I'm gonna do first is just cut some discs. Sometimes she likes discs. Sometimes she likes sticks. So I'm gonna make some sticks as well. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to cut a couple of discs make a couple of shapes out of them. I know she really likes this flower looking one. So in this case, I'm using an English cucumber, so the peel is edible. But if you were using, say, like a field cucumber, where the peel is much more fibrous and tough and full of like the spines, this would be a great way to use up your cucumber without wasting the peel. So in my case, I'm actually wasting the peel because I've trimmed it off by making shapes. I'm eating it, I'm not actually wasting it, but theoretically, right? So if you were using a field cucumber to make these, you wouldn't have that waste because you're already getting rid of your peel anyways, okay? So I did a flower. I'm gonna do a star. She really likes the stars. So yeah, this is a little bit more time consuming making the shapes, but it's that peace of mind knowing that your kids are gonna get that good food, right? And that they're gonna actually eat it and want to eat it. Now, if you have kids with you right now helping you make these meals, this is a fantastic thing for them to do, particularly if they're young and they're not yet ready to use knives. You can, by all means, have them punching out their own shapes of their fruits and their vegetables. Okay, so we've got that little guy there too. So a couple of fun shapes. I've got one more, so maybe I'll just do a heart. She likes the heart. Okay, so just a handful of fun shapes for your kids. And then I've got all these peels that I'm going to eat after. Okay, and then if you've got zucchini, you can do the same thing with your zucchini. You can make some shapes with it. And I actually think I'm going to, because this yellow one here that I have is actually kind of very fibrous and tough, so I think she's going to really want to eat it just simply as a stick or a disc or anything. So just make some fun shapes. These ones I'm just going to chop in half and call them half discs or half moons even. See, when you make it fun, like when you change up the words and you just add in some humor and just whimsical humor to what you're doing, right, okay. So there's that. I already have baby carrots, so those are nice and easy to do because they're already prepped. If you have full carrots, you can go ahead and make some matchsticks with them. And just put them into some sticks. And I have to readjust my oven. It shuts off automatically at the end of the timer. So give her some little treats as well. So I know she's a big fan of raw broccoli. So that's why I really have to find ways to be creative to get her to eat it raw. She'll eat it cooked, no problem, usually. But not a big fan of it raw. So just making it fun and just recognizing with your children that like not forcing them to eat it, but encouraging them to, and having those conversations about why there are certain foods they should be eating and what that food will do for them will help them gain a little bit more understanding and maybe willingness to try. Okay. So let's see here if we've got any questions in the meantime while everybody's catching up on this. Questions so far. That's perfect. Everybody must be very busy then. Okay. Perfect. All right. Then what we're going to do, we're gonna go ahead and make all of our dips and sauces, okay? So we are going to start with our hummus. So if you bought hummus, that's fine too. You can just put that to the side and move on with the next one. But since it's still full, I'm going to use Nutribullet. Hummus. So hummus first. So I'm going to go ahead and put my chickpeas into my food processor. Okay. So in this case, for the recipe, we need 2/3 of a cup of cooked chickpeas. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of garlic. If I can find it. So you can add as much as your children enjoy. Some children like it very garlicky, some do not. So mine does not. I'm just going to put one small one. Then a little bit of lemon juice, so 1 tablespoon. I'm cheating today. I'm actually using processed lemon juice, which I don't normally, but I didn't like the look of the lemons in the store lately, so I skipped those. So, okay, so I just did 2 capfuls, but basically 1 1/3 tablespoon. I could probably do 1/3. Okay, is all we need. Then we're gonna add a little bit of salt. So this is like my basic recipe for hummus. It's very simple, easy to use. Then we're gonna add a little bit of tahini. Those of you who don't know what tahini is, sesame seed paste. Basically, it's very similar to peanut butter, but it is nut-free and school-friendly. So you can go ahead and add that. So I'm just gonna add like that. And then a little bit of water. Or you could add oil if you are using oil. Like an olive oil is a great option if you're not oil free. And then you're just going to go ahead and blend that until it is smooth. Just like my veggies over. Oh, I forgot to chop up my celery. So my daughter's not a huge fan of eating celery either. But again, I always try. I never stop trying just because she doesn't like it. Instead, I just find creative ways to have to try it, or just continue presenting it until she's willing to try it. Oftentimes, children take about 7 exposures to a new type of food before they're willing to give it a try or before they like it. And so just continuing to present it is a great way to get them to try it or to be more. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and mute myself again while I blend this, and then we will move on to the next sauce. Okay, so there's a nice simple hummus. The next thing we're going to do is the white garlic sauce. Okay, so the white bean garlic sauce. So I'm not going to change anything on my blade here because it's very similar recipes, very similar flavors, very similar spices. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it together. So the white beans, so 1/3 of a cup of white beans. And we need a little bit of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon. I'm just going to do 1 of those. Okay, of lemon juice. A little bit. You can use fresh, or you can use dried, really your preference, just a little bit better. So I'm going to just use garlic powder in this case, but your preference again, you can use garlic powder, you can use fresh garlic, and then the recipe calls for a little bit of olive oil, so you add that. Like I mentioned, I'm oil free, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water. Okay, here is our timer. So go ahead and check on your food in the oven and just have a look at how it's doing. If your veggies and your tofu look roasted well enough to what your cake is, go ahead and pull those out. There we go. And if not, for another, I would say maybe 10 minutes. Okay. You can check on your muffins at the same time. And I'm just going to keep making sauces while you do that. Okay, so that sauce is done. So that's the garlic white bean dip. Very simple, very easy. And we're just going to move into the black bean dip, which is again very similar. So I don't know if you noticed, but I started with the light dips first because now I'm going to do the black bean dip, and I'm actually just not even going to rinse my plate again. I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and the white will just be hidden in the black bean sauce. Whereas if I had done it the other way around, if I had done the black bean sauce first and had not rinsed my blades, then the black bean would have change the color of our hummus and our white bean sauce. So, but yeah, I truthfully don't run water more often than I have to. Sometimes I'm very lazy in the kitchen. Okay, if you haven't picked that up yet. Okay, so there's that. Then we're gonna Now, this is a really easy way for your children to get a healthy source of protein during the day without them feeling like they're eating a whole lot of food. Like kids love to dip their food. They love having dip. So this is giving them, a variety of dip throughout the week so they're not bored of it, so that there's more variety and more flavor. And it kind of gives you the opportunity to figure out what types of spices and what types of dips and what types of proteins your children enjoy. So that you can maximize on that. I went camping last weekend. I made a brownie cookie. I made a brownie cookie pie type thing out of chickpeas. And my daughter just devoured it. And the best thing was that it was really healthy. It was sweetened only with fruit. And so we could eat it at any time of the day without worrying about blood sugar levels and ensuring that she was getting a healthy protein source. Okay, so just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. I see that I'm getting an error on my audio. Okay, hope that worked. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make that. Okay, so I don't have any smoked paprika. This calls for a little bit of olive oil and some lime juice. I do have a lime. So I'm just gonna go ahead and chop a little bit of my lime. I can get some lime juice in there. So if you're using oil, go ahead and add your olive oil to this as well. In my case, I'm actually just going to add a little bit of tahini. It's going to change the flavor just slightly, but not so significantly that it's unbearable or anything. So, but the tahini is going to add a healthy fat source that the same thing an olive oil would, just to make it kind of creamier and more enjoyable. And I don't know if you noticed, but in the white bean sauce too, I did end up adding a little bit of tahini to that. Just like that. And salt. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to add just a bit of water to help with blending, and I'm going to go ahead and blend that. Okay, there it is, an easy black bean sauce. So there it is, 3 easy sauces, healthy protein sources for your children to dip their veggies into. So that was easy and simple. So then we are going to make our red bean hummus, or sorry, our red bean sauce. Not red beans, I apologize. Red lentils. I can't get my words right. There we go. Okay. So go ahead and put your red lentils into your blender or your food processor, whatever you're using. So you'll notice too that all of the beans and all of the red lentils, they all expanded significantly after cooking. So you don't have to be too concerned when you're putting in just a small amount to cook, because you will get about 2 times more than what you put in. So there's that, and then a little bit of about 1/3 of a cup of water. Okay. Some roasted red peppers. I don't have any roasted red peppers. I'm just going to put some raw ones in there. A little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of oil if you're choosing to use that. Okay. A little bit of honey and garlic. Now, red lentils are an incredibly high source of iron, which is very important, well, for everybody, but our children as well. So a great way to get your children to have more iron if they are eating a vegan or plant-based diet. So a little bit of garlic here and a little bit of salt. And you can go ahead and blend that up. And that's 4 sauces. And then the last one is just a guacamole. Okay, a really easy, simple guacamole. There we go. Alrighty. So we will make the guacamole. So for guacamole, generally guacamole is kind of spicy with raw onions and that sort of thing. My daughter does not like her guacamole like that. She kind of just likes it very basic. So all I'm going to do is just mash up an avocado with a little bit of garlic and lime juice, and just leave it at that, because that's what she likes. You are welcome to add some cilantro, some jalapeno peppers, some red onion, some tomato, if your kids like that. I know that mine doesn't, so I'm skipping that process. So I'm just going to go ahead and now you'll notice that we're making, or you may not have noticed, for the hummus and for the guacamole, we're actually making 2 servings in this recipe, because we're going to use it in not just as a dip on the snacks, but we're also using it as a spread in one of the sandwiches. Okay, so really, really great way to multitask things for more than one recipe. As you become accustomed to doing this, it does go much faster, and it's actually very difficult to do this on camera as quickly as I normally do. Normally, I do all of our thing for our lunches, our snacks, and our suppers within an hour and a half, based on this system that I'm using with you right now. Okay, so it is doable. It's just when it's teaching, it's a little bit different. So, okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of lime juice. Now my daughter actually really loves avocado, which is fantastic. It's such a great healthy fat source for our children. And healthy fats are what's going to help your children keep their blood sugar stabilized. It helps them in their learning and their growth. It helps support their brain development. So it's really important that our kids are getting a healthy fat source every day. Throughout the day even. I think she'd be okay if I added a little bit of chopped tomatoes, so I'm going to. Sometimes she does not like that. Other times I can get away with it. So I'm going to push my luck and see how well this goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it very tiny. I think she's more likely to eat it if they're very small pieces, as opposed to if they're larger. She's kind of like me, like I don't like raw tomatoes, and I think it's, for her it's a texture thing, for me it's a taste thing, but I think when they're larger, she definitely won't eat them, so smaller pieces it is. And if you have set a 10-minute timer, go ahead and check on everything in the oven, see how all of that is doing. Excellent. So mine looks done. I'm just going to leave it in there for a few minutes to cool. But you can actually actively take it out to cool faster. Okay. Let's get to assembling. Okay, so go ahead and grab yourselves five medium-sized containers. Okay, we're going to put together the morning snack, which is going to be a vegetable, a fruit, and a dip. Okay, so let's see here, 5 medium-sized. Something along this size would be perfect for children a little over, maybe over 8, and something a little smaller would be great for children under 8. My daughter actually has her lunch box with her today, so I can't even pack these in a lunchbox, which is fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. So go ahead and divvy up your sauces into different containers. So 1/4 to 1/2 cup of sauce in each container. So I'm doing the black bean sauce first. Then I'm going to just do the white bean garlic sauce. Then the hummus. I definitely put way more in there than she'll eat, but that's okay. And a little bit of guacamole. And if you've got that 5th container, you can go ahead and use the red pepper. Oh my gosh, yeah, the roasted red pepper red lentil sauce. Okay. Then I want you to pick one type of vegetable, a different type of vegetable for each container. Okay. So in one container, I'm going to put some. In another container, I'm going to put some carrots. Third container, I'm going to put some celery. And in the 4th, I'm going to put some of these fun shapes we made of the zucchini and the cucumber. Okay. In the 5th one, you can put some peppers. But then I want you to pick a second vegetable and put a different one in each container. Or you can just do 1/4 to 1/2 cup of a vegetable in each container. Okay, that's the idea. That's the goal. 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup. I actually think I've got close to that in each one of these. So I'm going to leave those like that. You can put your lids on, put them to the side, okay? So there you have a quick morning snack, but we are going to add a fruit to that. In this case, I don't actually want the fruit in the sauce. That's where bento boxes really come in handy. So my daughter's lunchbox is a bento box. It's so much handier for children because you can just have so much in it. Then I want you to pick a different fruit for each day. Let's see. Let me do. I'm going to be creative here and find a way to put her fruit in the containers. Okay, so I'm going to put a handful of grapes into the one with celery, and I'm just going to use the celery as kind of like a little wall to keep the grapes on one side. So a quarter cup to a half a cup of fruit. Okay, so there's one. Now you're going to notice everything's going to go by a little quicker because now what we're doing is we're assembling. Everything is nearly ready. Oops, there we did grapes. Try and switch it up so that your kids get variety, but not totally necessary. Put some raspberries. So again, a quarter to a half a cup. This is going to be an awesome snack. Kids. Third one, I'm going to cut up an apple. Now you don't have to cut the apple if your children prefer to eat them whole. Or if your children don't really like apples, you can make shapes out of them. Again, grab your cookie cutters, make some shapes. I actually think I will make a heart. Just makes it more fun for them. That's cute. And then I'm just going to put the rest in there for her. I'm going to cut up an orange. If you've got some fresh berries, so I really like sending them to school with berries. Okay, so my daughter used to go to daycare, so I'm kind of used to packing lunches, but I really like berries just because they're so easy. They're easy to eat with your fingers. You can use so many different varieties. You can, if you want, you can buy them frozen and defrost them and feed, let your kids eat them that way. My daughter actually really likes to eat frozen fruit. So oftentimes after supper, she'll ask for a dessert of frozen fruit, which is fantastic, really, really great. This was a small orange, so I'm going to give her about 3 pieces. If this was a large orange, I probably would have given her only half of it. Here she's getting 3/4. Okay, so just like that. So there is our morning snack. Okay, let's do our afternoon snacks now. So afternoon snacks, we are going to do 1 muffin and 1 fruit or vegetable, okay? So on some days, you'll see that lunch is actually going to include a fruit. So on those days, we want to make sure we have a vegetable for afternoon snack. We just want them to have keep their intake balanced. It's a lot easier to get your children to eat fruit than it is for vegetables. So, okay, so there's our morning snacks. I'm going to move them. Now we're going to do afternoon snacks. So 1 muffin in each container plus a serving of fruit or vegetables. So in my case, we need 2 servings of vegetables. So 1 for one day and 1 for another. So here I'm going to use peppers. Okay. Then the other days I'm going to do some raspberries. Some strawberries. Remember to keep your strawberries handy because we're going to be making a sandwich with strawberries too. Okay. I would love to throw some blueberries in here. I couldn't find any really nice ones in the store this week, so I'm not going to. I think maybe I will do, maybe banana. So, okay, so you saw that we cut an apple ahead of time, and now you're probably thinking, oh, it's going to brown before she even gets to eating, but she's not going to want to eat it, right? So that's called oxidative stress. And I said, actually, interesting. It's oxidization, okay? It's an interesting concept because we're going to talk about that in a second, how that relates to our body. But basically what's happening is the fruit is ripening rapidly because of oxygen, okay? So it's aging. So a really great way to reduce that oxidative process and to slow it down is to just spritz your fruit with lemon juice. Okay, lemon juice is a protective barrier that is going to help minimize that oxidative process, okay? Now, the interesting thing is the exact same thing actually happens inside of our body to our cells. How? By the wrong foods that we eat, by lack of sleep, by over-exercising, by under-exercising, by stress, by sugar, illness, disease, toxins in our environment, chemicals. It happens. It's called aging. The interesting thing, though, is that you can actually support your body with natural lemon juice. So not actually lemon juice, but using fruits and vegetables as the base of your diet to support, protect, and heal your body from oxidative stress and damage, which is incredible. Who knew that we actually have access to nature's natural lemon juice to protect us from that rapid aging process and disease and illnesses and excess sleep, stress, and all the symptoms that come along with being and feeling unwell. So pretty cool, right? So you can see I put a little bit of lemon juice on the banana to keep it fresh looking. And then go ahead and put a muffin with each of your afternoon snacks. Okay? So if your muffins are cool, if not, go ahead and just leave them in there. I don't know, cool. So we'll skip that. But that would be the next process. Okay? When they're cool, I'm going to go ahead and add these into the container. All right, and then we're going to skip over to making lunches. Okay, so we'll do some quick lunches. All right, so we are going to make 2 sandwiches. So the first is a sunflower seed butter and strawberry sandwich, which is so much fun, so delicious. So go ahead and grab 4 pieces of butter. If your children are very young, when the bread is very large, you can use 1 piece for each sandwich and just cut it in half. In my case, that's what I'm going to do. My daughter does not eat huge sandwiches. So I'm using a whole grain bread. I'm just going to cut them in half without doing anything. There we go. And then I'm going to make these sandwiches. So in the meantime, I'm just going to see if we've got any questions while we go here. And here, fantastic. How about over here? How's everybody doing? I hope you're keeping up well. I'm trying to move quickly so that we're not taking up too much time, because I really don't want this to take too long. But at the same time, too, I'm trying to make sure that everybody is staying caught up and able to keep up with this. So, okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to do the sunflower seed butter and strawberry sandwich first. So, sunflower seed butter, just 2 tablespoons, or you can also use tahini. So my daughter really loves tahini, but both of these are school friendly, which is why I really love them. And just go ahead and make a sandwich. Now, if your family is not used to tahini, it is a seed butter, but it can be a little bit bitter. So one of my ways to introduce tahini into your diet is to sprinkle it with cinnamon. It's so delicious like that. Really great, easy way to start to enjoy it in a different way other than just in sauces and like in hummus, that sort of thing. Just doing that, and I actually gonna my daughter loves tahini. She prefers it over peanut butter and most nut butters, but I like to use it, it's fine. And then just go ahead and cut a few strawberries into slices and add those to your sandwich. So I like this meal here because it has fruit. Like so many kids they're so easy to get their fruit intake, and if you're really worried about your children not eating lunch, like maybe they really like snack but they don't like eating lunch, this is a great meal for that option because it just gives them kind of that desserty, fruity desire in their meal as opposed to having it feel like a really heavy, sit down veggie loaded meal. So just cut that like that. So a cute little sandwich like that. I'm going to put it in a container. And I'm actually going to put the other sandwich in the same container because we're not going anywhere this week. So it's not really a big deal how it's stored. Now this next one is, let's see here, I'm just going to scroll down so we can follow along here. Okay, so this one's the creamy chicken avocado sandwich. So this one is basically just taking our leftover hummus from earlier. Okay, and our guacamole. We're going to spread that on each side of the bread. Okay, a little bit. There we go. Basically, I'm just making the sandwich. Okay, so I put hummus on one side. I'm going to put guacamole on the other side. And remember too, my guacamole is very mild. My daughter doesn't like full-on guacamole, so really it's just kind of mashed avocado with a few spices. So there's that. Then we're gonna go ahead and just take some of our cucumber discs that we had from earlier from snacks, and just put a few on there. You can cut them really thin if necessary. I know that if they're too thick, sometimes it's just not enjoyable to eat your sandwich. So go ahead and thin them out a bit. And we're gonna add just a little bit of leafy greens, which I actually used all of mine in the muffins. So you don't have to add that. I don't actually know that my daughter would eat it like that anyway. So again, adaptability, right? Just recognizing what your kids will and will not eat and maximizing on the things that they will. So here we've got a little bit of veggies and we've got some tomatoes, some cucumbers, some avocado, and then a good protein source of hummus, okay? So there are your 2 sandwiches for the week. And then we're going to jump over to our apple nachos. Now this one's fun. Okay, so earlier I talked about how fruits especially will oxidize when they are cut already. So you have 2 options with this one. This is how I like to do this one. Okay, so take your apple and I want you to cut it, holding it steady while you cut so that it stays in position, okay? Like that. So it stays together, sorry. And just rotate around the circle of it. So basically you've made 4 cuts around the whole thing. Okay, just gonna slide it apart so you can see what I've done there. See, basically cut it in every direction, making a square around the core. And then take yourself a really heavy elastic band and wrap that apple just like that. Okay, and that's going to help hold it together so it doesn't brown before your children eat it. Now, if you were doing this, I would send this to school for basically tomorrow's lunch, the day after you make it, just to avoid extra oxidization. But what another option you could do is just sprinkle it in some lemon juice, then put it in the container with the rest of the ingredients. So in my case, I'm just going to do it this way. Okay, then we need a little bit of sunflower butter. Again, I'm using tahini. And perfect. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of tahini in there. Okay, about 2 tablespoons is enough. And then a little bit of granola. So I actually made this granola earlier. It's really simple. It was just some oats, some chia seeds, hemp hearts, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, and some raisins. So really easy, simple homemade. I put a little bit of maple syrup in it and a tiny little bit of coconut oil, roasted it in the oven, and pulled it out when it's done. And I'm just going to put that on top of the tahini, sunflower butter, whichever you're using. And then basically your children can do one of two things. They can dip the apple into this as a sauce, or they can spread the apple out in their lunch container and drizzle all this over top like a pizza. So you have two options there, which is really fun because it gives your child that variety, that choice, and just makes it, you know, like who doesn't love pizza? So just a kind of a fun way to introduce that option. Okay, so there's that. How quick these are coming together now that we're prepped. Okay, and then next one, we are going to put together our, oh, I scrolled too far here. We are going to put together, okay, our tofu bowl, all right? So go ahead and grab a container and your grains. That rice that we finished earlier, in my case it was already done, I'm just going to rinse it off. Go ahead and put all that into a container. Have you tried that tofu? My goodness. Just like that. Now you can boost the nutritional value of this by adding just a little bit of sesame seeds on top. It's totally optional, but gives it a nice nutty flavor without actually adding nuts. And gives a ton of healthy nutrients, okay? So there's that. Oh, that tofu turned out amazing. Okay. We have one more meal together and then we are done, okay? So we are flying through this here. So I want you to grab your whole wheat pita. Again, my little grocery store here, my tiny little town does not sell pitas, funny enough. So I had to make do with just a tortilla, okay? Here we are going to make a pizza. So this one's, again, really easy. So you can use hummus with this, or you can use leftover white bean sauce. You can use black bean sauce. You can use the roasted red pepper, red lentil sauce, totally your preference. The reference or the recipe here calls for the hummus, but your choice, okay? Your children's choice. Let them choose. Let them have fun with it. Basically, just spread the sauce all over their pita. Let them put their delicious toppings on of veggies. So you can either roast those veggies or, you know, saute them quickly on the stove. Or you can just leave them totally fresh, and that's what I'm going to do. And you can make it fun. If you took, like if your children like raw beets, or if you want to try something new, you could cut your raw beets like that, call it pepperoni, and stick it on pizza. It's always kind of fun. You can also make a happy face on the pizza, just to kind of spice things up for your kids and give them something to smile about when they open their lunch. Okay, and then you would just put it in their lunchbox, and that's done, okay? In my case, I'm actually going to roll this up into a little pinwheel. And I'm doing this for a reason, because I want to show you how versatile some of these recipes are, right? Look at that. It's now a healthy, easy lunch sandwich if your children didn't want to make one as a pizza, or if you wanted to send them with the same ingredients, but a different meal, okay? So, I want to show you again everything we've done here, okay? And then we're wrapping this up. So we've got what was a hummus veggie pizza, okay? Then we have tofu, broccoli, and rice, okay? Then we have an apple pizza or dip, however your children like it. We have two sandwiches, the seed butter and strawberry, and the creamy avocado and hummus. So there are 5 lunches. 5 morning snacks of a fruit, a vegetable, and a healthy protein dip. 5 afternoon snacks of a fruit, a vegetable, and your muffins. And that's it, you guys, that's done. That's all there is to it. So I know that that seemed like a lot, and it took a little longer than I had anticipated, just in terms of actually getting through this with you guys. But I promise you, once you go through the process of prepping your grains and your proteins first and your oven stuff, the rest of it comes together quickly, right? Then it's all about chopping your vegetables and your fruit and just assembling your meals, and then it comes together. So including your kids in that process is really going to make it smoother and more simple, and give them that independence and that desire to actually want to try what it is that you're making them. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful for everybody. I know it was a ton of information. Thank you all so much for being here today. I really, really appreciate it. I am going to send you the replay of this event so that you can follow along at your own convenience or pick up some of the tidbits of what I've shared with you today. And I'm also going to be sending you, if you're catching this here right now, you'll notice in the link to the resources, there is also a back to work lunchbox menu for you as a parent. So enjoy. I hope this was really helpful for you. Have yourselves a fantastic day. Thank you all so much for being here.